Let's kick it. Atlanta Soccer tonight is live on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. I'm Jason Longshore. This is what we do on Tuesday nights. We talk soccer in Atlanta. We talk soccer all over the state of Georgia, all over the Southeast, all over the United States. We'll get into the entire hemisphere. We'll get into the entire planet. It's what we do on Atlanta Soccer tonight. And we're going to cover a lot of ground this episode of Atlanta Soccer tonight because we are less than 50 days away from the Club World Cup coming to Atlanta, 6 games this summer. We're going to talk about Champions Leagues going on all over the world. Teams are already qualified for this edition of the Club World Cup, but for future editions, some of these Champions League events on the different continents worldwide are going to determine who gets there. We're obviously going to talk about Atlanta United. That's going to be the next segment of what happened in Orlando, what can happen differently at home against Nashville, what I'm seeing and what I'm not seeing and what I'm trying to still figure out along with the rest of you. And the 3-4-3 to close it out. It's 3 local stories, it's 4 headlines, it's 3 things that make me smile about this game that I love so much. That'll close us out. Let's start with Champions League and let's start with the big game today. PSG and Arsenal. I was really looking forward to this game coming into it, and it honestly didn't really disappoint either. It was an outstanding match between 2 of the best teams in Europe, I think alongside Barcelona, who plays tomorrow. It's it's been a season that I look at Mikel Arteta and I look at Luis Enrique, the managers of the respective teams today. And I really like what these 2 have done in the sense that they both are obviously influenced by Pep Guardiola. And I know the cool thing right now is to be like an anti Guardiola guy and talk about tactics. And I mean, people have said, I ruined the game because he had everybody worried about possession. No, that's nonsense. The majority of top teams in the world are teams that have more of the ball than their opponents. The majority, not all. Not all. There's many different ways to play this game. But the majority of them are in some form or fashion a positional team. Something that you've heard Ronnie Dyla talk about with Atlanta United, something they're trying to get to, something that takes time. Understanding what positional play is. And I see people talk about it in the absolute wrong ways. Positional play as a construct, as an idea, is essentially you want to occupy all of the different zones on the field with one person. You want to spread a team out. That doesn't mean you're stuck in one spot. Some coaches have taken that tack with positional play. Louis Van Gaal, for example, he's had a lot of success in his career, but is more on the rigid side. Others are welcoming to interchange of positions, and Guardiola has done that. Others have. I think we get very hung up on what the starting lineup graphic looks like, for example. Big topic with Atlanta United these days, huh? I can't tell you how many times people come up to me and say that Miguel Almiron should be the 10 when, to be fair, the only time he's ever played the 10 in his career was under Tata Martino in 2017 and 2018, which was here in Atlanta United. And he didn't play it in a typical way in that team. A lot of times he functioned more like a second forward, for example. So it's not about the starting lineup. It's not about those graphics. It's about what you do with it. And I think that's what's so interesting about Mikel Arteta and Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique specifically is one who I think he's been the best coach in the world this year. And his team today got the win 1-0 on the road in London over Arsenal. Ousmane Dembele, who had not been a top guy at PSG. This is a PSG team, remember, that just a few years ago had Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, and they didn't win the Champions League. Now all of them are gone, and they might win the Champions League. They're the favorite in this semifinal now after the 1-0 win. Dembele scored very early. Now, he did leave the match due to a hamstring issue. Luis Enrique said he's probably a doubt for the second leg. He thinks it's minor, but in a week's time, is he going to be ready to go? Gianluigi Donnarumma, for whatever reason, he get him into England and he goes insane and turns into one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He was great today, and Luis Enrique talked about that. William Saliba of Arsenal said the first 20 minutes we were eaten alive. And that's the element of PSG that I fixate on. It's a team that it's a true team, first off. When you lose Mbappe last year and you previously lost Messi and Neymar from that group, and you find a way as a coach to make them better as a collective, that doesn't always happen. Luis Enrique's done that. And they added Kavicha Kvaratskhelia, the Republic of Georgia national team winger, who's one of the best players in Europe. That gave them a, I don't want to do the air quotes thing. One, it's radio and that doesn't always work. But a star, Kvaratskhelia is not a star in the same realm as Messi and Mbappe and Neymar. He's not. He's very, very good. Napoli fans in Serie A would probably argue that. Very, very good, but maybe a tier down from the superstars, the GOAT kind of conversation that we have. But Luis Enrique took a group of players and has made them better as a collective. And the area where that really shines to me is what they do off the ball. A lot of times when we talk about positional play teams, or we talk about teams that are heavy in possession, or we talk about teams that play in a Guardiola manner, we talk about possession and we talk about keeping the ball and playing keep away, and some teams use it in a slow the game down manner. What Luis Enrique has done, in my opinion, is he's taken the ideas of Guardiola, which were the ideas of Johan Cruyff, which were the ideas of Rinus Michels, the great Dutch masters. He took those ideas and Guardiola put more of a structure around it. Luis Enrique has taken it a step further and I think made this team play in this manner and with this construction, but be more dynamic and maybe more vertical in how they do it. It's a team that can get from back to front really fast. And it's a team that off the ball, they work like maniacs to get the ball back. That's an element of the style of play that I think gets underrated at times. We forget about how the Barcelona teams under Guardiola were so great with their counter pressure at winning the ball back high up the field, and they got goals out of it. But they also just suffocated teams with it. I think PSG has that same kind of factor, and I go back to what William Saliba said. The first 20 minutes we were eaten alive. I mean, a lot of that's on the ball, but a lot of that is when they lost the ball too. They just didn't let Arsenal play. Mikel Arteta is a great manager as well. He interprets the style of play differently than Luis Enrique. I think these are two of the best in the world right now. I think Arsenal fans should have hope that their team can go to Paris and turn this around. It's not going to be easy. I think PSG is the best team in Europe. I think they're the best team in the world right now. That doesn't mean they get it done. They have had, and Luis Enrique talked about it, once they won Ligue 1 a couple weeks ago, they've had a dip in intensity, a dip in form. And that happens to PSG teams because usually they don't really get tested in France very much. So it's hard for them to maintain this top level. They showed it today that they can. Can they do it again another week, especially if Dembele is out? We're going to find out. Arsenal is going to bring everything to that game in Paris. I can't wait for it next week. Really looking forward to it. Tomorrow, the other UEFA Champions League semifinal. It's Barcelona hosting Inter. Remember 2010? You had the Icelandic volcano eruption that grounded flights across Europe. Barcelona had to take a 15-hour bus ride from Spain to Italy. They lost in the game in Italy 3-1. They won the second leg 3-2, but it wasn't enough to get past Inter under Jose Mourinho, who was incredibly defensive, had a red card, had to sit back and defend. He said it's the best loss of his life. It was a very different kind of Inter team than the one that's going to Barcelona tomorrow. They've lost 3 consecutive games right now. First time since 2017. They got knocked out of the Coppa Italia by their crosstown rivals, Milan. Back-to-back defeats in Serie A. Now they're out of the top spot in Serie A. This was a team that was talking about a treble not long ago. They're out of the domestic cup. They're in second place in the league, and they're in a semifinal where they are the decided underdog against Barcelona, who is right there with PSG as the best team in the world at the moment. Barca beat Real Madrid in extra time in the Copa del Rey final to lift their second trophy of the season on Saturday. Talked about a treble with Inter that was on the cards, which isn't anymore. Barca's got a quadruple in front of them that is still on the cards. They lead La Liga by 4 points, and they are the favorite in this semifinal. Lamine Yamal, He's still 2 months away from his 18th birthday. He had 2 assists in that Copa del Rey final. He will be a focal point in the Barcelona attack tomorrow. And Hansi Flick, another one who has taken maybe the previous 10 years of where coaching in the world has been, and Hansi Flick has also found a way to modernize it and is in some ways like Luis Enrique, but in some ways he's got some very different things about his game and what he's done. And having Rafinha and having Lamine Yamal on the wings, he's got dynamos in the 1v1 who can just break teams. And that's what these two have done so many times. It's Atlanta Soccer tonight. I'm Jason Longshore. We're talking about Champions Leagues so far in Europe, but we're going to bounce around to the rest of the continents going on right now. I think this is important as we talk about the Club World Cup coming to town this summer. It gives more context to it, in my opinion. CONCACAF Champions Cup, Vancouver is up 2-0. They're going to Fort Lauderdale to face Inter Miami tomorrow night. Remember, Miami trailed LAFC, and they turned that game around in one of the most epic games in the history of the competition. Well, Vancouver's got a 2-0 lead. They've been the best team in Major League Soccer this season. Can they hold on and do it? Miami rested a bunch of their guys on Sunday. They lost to FC Dallas. Vancouver rested guys and still won on the road in Minnesota. Now they make the trip down to Fort Lauderdale to face Miami. It's hard to bet against Lionel Messi and crew, but these Whitecaps feel like they got something special about them. The African Champions League, Pyramids FC of Egypt, they booked a spot in their first continental final over the weekend. They will face Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa, who will be part of the Club World Cup here this summer. That's going to be a two-leg final that'll start next month. Mamelodi Sundowns beat Al Ahly, a top team out of Egypt. Knock them out. Al Ahly will be here this summer in Club World Cup. The Asian Champions League, a different Al Ahly, the one in Saudi Arabia. They won 3-1 over Al Hilal today in a semifinal. They're going to the final on Saturday in Jeddah. They will play the winner of Al Nasser, Cristiano Ronaldo's team, or Japan's Kawasaki Frontale in the other semifinal. That one's going to be tomorrow. Copa Libertadores is on a different calendar. It is more of the traditional calendar, January to December, as opposed to the European playing calendar. There are 3 rounds through the group stage right now. There's only one team that's perfect, Palmeiras of Brazil. 2 groups that I'm keeping an eye on. Group B, River is leading it with 5 points. Independiente del Valle of Ecuador and Barcelona of Ecuador are on 4 points. Universitario of Peru are on 3 points. That one's wide open halfway through. Group C with Flamengo of Brazil, they're in 3rd place right now, behind Liga de Quito of Ecuador and Central Cordoba, a not big Argentine team. They're leading the group at the moment. Those two are kind of the groups of death at the moment. So Club World Cup's less than 50 days away. I want to play you this clip from our old friend Carlos Bocanegra. I asked him in a media availability what the benefits are to soccer in the United States and specifically executives in the United States who are going to be scouting this competition. Here's what Carlos Bocanegra had to say.
I think it saves a lot of travel and a lot of a lot of expenses on the budget when you don't have to fly all over and spend time in Europe or South America for an extended period of time. So you've got to believe that all MLS is going to be on watch. This is also an opportunity for coaches, like you said, players to show themselves that, hey, there is a potentially an opportunity here when they think the time is right, or to be plucked out of their environment. So it's a huge opportunity for everybody participating here. But yeah, for the MLS teams especially, and executives, that they don't have to travel as far to go and watch the players and the coaches perform. But I think with a lot of the teams, they'll be training at MLS facilities as well. There'll be some interaction, so the executives will have a chance to just, they're not poaching and it's not being nasty. It's just the interactions that you have with other coaches, or probably less so with the players. But executive to executive, I think that's one of the cool parts. At Atlanta United here, we always were able to host other teams, and their executives would come in, or their coaches would come in, and you share ideas, you share some of the challenges, the view on global football at the moment. What's the vision of your club? What's the vision of the club? And so I think that is really cool, and that's one of the great parts about football or soccer, that just the sharing and how the sport brings people together from all over the world, and that's just really a fantastic part about our sport.
It's going to be huge having the Club World Cup here in Atlanta, 6 games this summer, but just having the competition in the United States. I think it's going to have a big knock on effect for the game in this country as we get close to being a year away from the World Cup. A little more on Club World Cup and the game globally in the next segment, but we're going to talk about Atlanta United and a poor outing in Orlando and how things can be better at home against Nashville on Saturday. We'll be back in 5 on Atlanta Soccer tonight on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app.